On the night of August 7th, 1963, a group of criminals in the UK meticulously planned what would become one of the most audacious and successful heists in history. Their target, the Royal Mail train, travelling from Glasgow to London, carrying millions in cash and securities. The train, known as the Up Special, was a regular service that transported large sums of money between banks, and the gang had learned that this was the perfect opportunity for a heist. They had spent months preparing for the robbery, carefully observing the train's route, stops, and security measures. Bruce Reynolds, a seasoned career criminal, was the mastermind behind the Great Train Robbery. He had grown frustrated with smaller, less lucrative jobs and dreamed of pulling off something far bigger and more daring. Reynolds assembled a team of 15 men, including trusted associates like Buster Edwards, Roy James, Charlie Wilson, and Gordon Goody. Each gang member had a specific role to play in the operation. The gang's success hinged on insider information, obtained through a man known only as the Ulsterman. This informant provided Reynolds with crucial details about the Royal Mail train's route and schedule, including when large sums of cash would be transported. The gang also learned that the train would stop at a signal near Ledburn, Buckinghamshire, in the early hours of August 8th to receive orders. This stop was to be the gang's target. After weeks of reconnaissance, the plan was set. The gang would stop the train, overpower the crew, and unload the cash. They carefully selected a location for the robbery, an isolated bridge near Bradigo Bridge, allowing them to avoid any immediate police response. The gang used a series of tricks to ensure they wouldn't be detected. They had rigged the signal light to show a red light, which would force the train to stop. Once the train halted, the gang would move quickly to take control. At 3:00 a.m. on August 8, 1963, the Royal Mail train approached the signal at Sears Crossing. The signal was tampered with, and the light turned red, prompting the train's driver, Jack Mills, to bring the train to a stop. Mills, unaware that a robbery was in progress, halted the train, but the gang soon confronted him. Armed with metal bars, the criminals boarded the train and overpowered Mills and his co-driver, David Whitby. The two men were tied up and confined to the engine, but they were not harmed. The gang swiftly moved to the train's first two carriages, containing cash and high-value items. They separated the money-laden carriages from the rest of the train and began unloading the bags of cash, which included large denominations of £1 and £5 notes. The robbery was carried out with incredible precision. The gang had prepared two getaway vehicles, a truck and a car, and began loading the stolen money into the vehicles. Despite the gang's careful planning, there were a few complications. The gang was forced to improvise when their first getaway driver struggled to start the truck. Mills, still tied up in the locomotive, was brought back in to start the engine, but the delay forced the gang to move faster than planned. Eventually, they started the truck and headed to Leather Slade Farm, a secluded farmhouse 27 miles from the robbery site. At the farmhouse, the gang divided the loot. Each member received roughly £150,000, a staggering amount of money by the standards of the time. However, the gang made a critical mistake. They failed to destroy the truck used in the heist. Instead, they left it abandoned on a street in North London, where the police would eventually find it. The authorities, alerted to the robbery, began their investigation in earnest. Over the following weeks, the police worked tirelessly to identify the robbers. They received a breakthrough when they discovered the truck and traced its origins. Forensic evidence and witness statements led them to the identities of several gang members. The investigation also revealed that the gang had connections to the criminal underworld, and the police were able to make several key arrests. The first of the gang to be apprehended was Roger Caudry, who was caught in the weeks following the heist. Soon after, Charlie Wilson and Roy James were arrested. The authorities continued to track down members of the gang, and in 1964, they managed to arrest all of the key players, including Bruce Reynolds, the mastermind behind the robbery. Despite the police's best efforts, much of the stolen money was never recovered. The gang had laundered much of the cash, and a portion was never found. The robbers had been careful to hide the loot, and only small amounts were ever traced. The trial of the gang members took place in 1964, and the men were sentenced to long prison terms. Reynolds, who had masterminded the operation, was sentenced to 25 years, but he managed to escape custody for several years before being recaptured in 1968. Buster Edwards, another key member, also went into hiding and was eventually arrested in 1966. Some of the gang members were released from prison after serving time, but others, like Roy James, served their full sentences. The Great Train Robbery had an enduring impact on British society. The audacity and scale of the heist captured the public's imagination, and the case became a defining moment in British criminal history. The police's efforts to catch the robbers led to significant changes in how money was transported by rail, with greater security and precautions to prevent similar crimes. Despite the robbers' eventual capture, the legacy of the Great Train Robbery lives on. It remains one of the most famous heists in history, and its story continues to captivate the public's imagination. The gang's meticulous planning, precision, and boldness made it a crime ingrained in popular culture and criminal law.